Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to speak about the 3 weeks, the 9 days. We are now in the 9 days where we remember the destruction of the temple. And what happened during the times of the temple is really on a spiritual level, there were certain Kabbalistic things that were happening. And so let me say this in simple terms. The wheat in the times of the Second Temple was the size of kidneys. Now, our training is that things do change over time, but we wouldn't expect that it would suddenly grow to kidney size and then shrink again. Well, our records are that during the times of the Second Temple, wheat was this big fruit the size of kidneys, and obviously could make a lot of bread and will be very nutritious. And this was all over the world. And when the temple was destroyed, these things went away. So in fact, the temple was this spiritual, let's say you would have you have a nuclear power station that feeds electricity to the world. Well, imagine a spiritual power station that makes reality very much better than it is now. To the point where not only the wheat was the size of kidneys, but there was many other things that existed in the world that were much higher quality. That physical world was a higher quality. And as we were saying, that we are, just like you can imagine things in your mind, God is imagining us and putting us into existence, and that's how there is nothing else besides God, and yet we do exist because he's imagining us. So in the times of the temple, he was imagining a more pristine world, and therefore the experience of life was more pristine and things were better. And in fact, the Talmud says that if the non-Jews would know how much the temple protected them, they would have put armies to surround the temple to protect it from damage, because this was a spiritual power station to power more than just power, to power the very fabric of life. So the very fabric of life was higher. So what was happening on a Kabbalistic level is that certain names, there was a certain connection between letters of the name of God, because basically God is thinking of his name in different formats, and that's what is the fabric of his imagination, and that creates the reality. So God's name of 4 letters of Yud K Vav K, when the first two letters of God's name, they're always connected in order for reality to exist. However, they're not connecting in a deep way as long as we don't have a temple. They're not connecting in a deep way as long as we don't have a temple. They're only connecting in an external way. And what we need is for them to connect in a deep way. And that's when we're going to have these major transformations in our reality with the building of the temple. How life is going to be more enhanced. It's going to be miraculous, because the things that we're used to are just going to be physically better. So there is also the last 2 letters of God's name, which are the most important, because when they connect properly, that's going to trigger a deeper connection of the higher letters. The higher letters represent comprehension, and like we're using the metaphor, like we're inside a brain. So comprehension and insight are the 2 sides of the brain, and when they interface, we get artistic but practical ideas. But they're only connecting in a surface way nowadays. And with the building of the temple, they're going to connect in a much deeper way. So it's going to be more artistic and more practical and better. But that only happens when there is a trigger event, and the trigger event is the last two letters of God's name. When they connect and interface, that causes the deeper aspects, the first two letters, to connect on a deeper way, and that causes this turn of events which affects our physical world. And our physical world, just imagine, things would be better. Imagine if a woman gave birth to a child, and straight away the child would be able to walk and cut their own umbilical cord and speak faster than 2 years. Like, have like an open mind of all the things that could be happening, and we could travel to another part of this world, like to go to Jerusalem to the temple, that all nations will be coming on, at least on Shabbat. Oh, well, we all will go for Shabbos, or go for Rosh Chodesh, the new moon. All nations of the world will travel to celebrate Sukkot once a year by the temple. So imagine we had a way to get there faster than sitting on a train, sitting on a plane for so many hours. We would momentarily be able to get there. These are the types of ideas that we need to be thinking about when those aspects of divinity connect on the back end. Automatically, tremendous revelations happen in what's accessible to us from nature, because all the wonderful things are in nature. God programmed them, but we've been barred from using from these things that are actually happening in nature. So with the temple, all these wonderful things will happen. And at the moment, we have to remember that this is not the true state of reality. I mean, the reality that we're in is not the good one. And anybody that doesn't have the temple built in that time, it's as if the temple was destroyed in that time. So that's what we're commemorating now, that on the 9th of the temple was destroyed by the Romans. If they would have known the benefit that the temple brought to them, they would protect the temple and not destroy it, because it benefits all the nations. It's like you would have this one power station that's going to transform all of reality to a much higher level, the temple in Jerusalem. And this is something that, if we realize what we're missing, that itself is a vessel to pray for and ask for what we need. We think we need this, or we need a job, or we need health. That's true. We need all those things. We need income. But there's something bigger that we could ask for that would solve everything. I have something in the notes. So why aren't the first 976 generations before creation included in our years here on earth? Where did those generations exist? Do they still exist? I would think, I mean, I haven't studied that subject, but I would think that we're speaking about certain spiritual levels in the Sfirot. That means they would still exist. And we are probably a product of these 976 generations. It probably means on a spiritual Sfirot level. But I'm not an expert on that field. I'll need to look into it more. We also have other Rabbi. Okay, so that is the time which we're commemorating right now, and the tremendous opportunity which we're going to have. And when we realize we're missing something, we can ask for it. And that is the thought for this week's parsha. On Shabbos, we read a portion of the prophets and it's about the vision the vision of the temple, the visual vision of the temple in Jerusalem. And more importantly, not just the physical temple, but the impact, the goodness for all of humanity, which God, by God building the temple through Mashiach, but it's God building the temple. This is going to create a tremendous benefit for the entire world. It's going to open our eyes that we're going to be able to see divinity, and the quality of the physical world will be on a much higher level.